Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we'll start in a few minutes, so please do take your seats and settle down. Thank you. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm Sujeev Shakir, Chair of Nepal Economic Forum, welcoming you to a Neftalk. This is the first in-person event we are having after a long break. I remember when we were having 20 Neftalks in 2019, I think the team was saying we are not going to have any more Neftalks in 2020. And I think fate listened to us and we didn't have any physical in-person ones. But thank you for coming. And this is also broadcasted live on Facebook, and we have tech during these pandemic days have taught us how to take in-person events to the world, and on Facebook Live, welcome to everyone. So the way the format of today's event is that I would make a few slides presentation on the journey of Nepal Economic Forum. We took advantage of Mr. Kulchandra Gautam, Advisory Board of Nepal Economic Forum, as well as a person who's inspired me personally and the institution for so long, he being in town. We said we should take advantage of this and host an in-person event, and thank you for postponing your trip back to the US by a few days to accommodate this event. I'll start with the presentation, and then we have three speakers today. We have four speakers, sorry. Before this, we just had an event with National University Singapore, where I'm also a non-resident senior fellow, and we just talked about Nepal and the world. Our lead on Nepal and the world, Apeksha Shah, was a speaker there. We just finished that round table, and in this we would have Raja Mohan, who can't join in live here, but he sent a message, and then we will have Mr. Kulchandra Gautam, then we have Ambassador Nicola Pollitt, and then another advisory board member, Sneha Raj Bhandari. So I assure you we'll finish by 6 p.m. So in terms of our journey, Nepal Economic Forum began in 2009, and we were sort of starting off as a not-for-profit supported by BEAD. And it's been a long journey, 12 years, and we are very thankful to the initial supporters, Asia Foundation initially, and the Think Tank Institute of the Open Society Foundation, who helped us to go through those critical years of pain of growing up. And then on our way, many institutions and individuals have helped. We have been able to do multiple events, and we have been able to look at many programs and hosted many individuals, and this is a trend that continues. So the philosophy of Nepal Economic Forum rests on volunteering by members of the BEAD management, as promoted by BEAD management. So everybody who works at BEAD has to volunteer 20% of their time, and that's how this organization has sustained, and whatever financial income that comes in, a certain percentage is retained so that the institution continues. It has also got a robust internship and fellowship program. I'm very happy to see some of our past fellows here in the room. Many of them go to some of the best universities in the world, and it is a sought-after internship fellowship program. And that way, we have been able to contribute a growth of talent in Nepal and young global Nepalis who are not only changing how Nepal thinks, but changing how the world thinks. So our flagship publications, for those who have been receiving it, so we are now issue number 47, and we have been looking at, sort of not only news, but we provide outlook. It is a sought-after publication, and we have continued to keep this publication going. And now we are aiming at developing forecasting models to make this, one is for people to still get it free, but for people who want it to be subscription-based and to be able to pay to ensure that they get more deeper, incisive analysis. So we had our signature Nefport 25 about 5 years, 6, 7 years ago. We had contributors from around the world, and now we are aiming for our mega issue in September 2022, Nefport 50, where we intend to again come up with an anniversary issue. Neftalks like these have been our, we've done about 50 of them, and different set of programs, from individual discussions to panel discussions, and we would like to continue this, and especially use now the virtual platforms to reach a wider audience. So coming up next year in 2022 is Nef Meet, which is an annual sort of a meet that we want to put together within a series of sub-events. Also, we are going to be launching Nepal in a decade, because we have so much of data around, so much of stuff that we have seen in Nepal's transformation. In the quest of looking at all the negative news, we have perhaps forgotten that there's a lot of transformation that's taken place. If you take the size of banks, some of the size of the banks are more than what the banking industry used to be 15 years ago. So in terms of that transformation is what we want to capture through data. And then we are starting the Nepal Economic Dashboard. Today, Chandan Sapkota is not here, our senior fellow. He has been very instrumental in helping us put together 70 years of Nepal's data, and that's going to come in as a dashboard, and that's going to help us to, self-researchers, academics, private sector, and a lot of people. So another popular product we have is Neftalk. It's blogs. So as you would see, in 2020, we produced about 90 Neftalks in a year, in 52 weeks. So that's something that we have continued to work on. Some of the other products we have is Do You Know? Or Did You Know? And this is more towards the younger Instagram audience that is put up every week. There's some fact, some interesting snippets that would come to you on Instagram and other social media platforms. Our popular product has been weekly economic update. While many people have unsubscribed from this product because you get a weekly email, but we get a lot of requests from a lot of especially private sector people and also from colleges and universities for these weekly updates. And this has been very popular and a product of high demand. A small, especially if somebody is sitting in DC or somebody is sitting in Canberra, it's a nice way to look at what's happened in Nepal in the past week and pick up some of those numbers. So in terms of what we intend to do is we intend to sustain and grow our Business Policy Research Center that keeps on looking at producing Nefport, doing Neftalks, doing Neftalks. And then we have another vertical doing business in Federated Nepal, which is, we had prepared an opportunity map a couple of years ago, and then we are continuing some work. A mapping of local economic development is going to happen soon. Amongst the incubation and centers that we have, that we are nourishing, is the Center for Private Sector Development, Global Nepali Network, Renewable Energy Center, Himalayan Circular Economy Forum, Center for Digital Transformation, and Nepal and the World. And our senior fellows lead it for each of these verticals, and they have been contributing their time voluntarily, and we are trying to see how each of these centers shape in the years to come. In terms of the structure, we have an advisory board that guides us, and we are planning on a global advisory board. We have an executive board that is meant for governance. Unfortunately, both our external advisory board members, our former BEAD members, Shasta Tuladar, who is at WWF, and Chandni Singh, who is currently at the British Embassy. They couldn't join in today, but they have been the outsiders on the board and helping with the governance and other structures. And then we have, in the technical and chapter leads, senior distinguished fellows, senior fellows, and then at the operation levels, there are those NEF fellows that support the beads who are volunteering, and that's how we keep the machine rolling. So as I mentioned, in our advisory board, we have, so this is just for, it will be up on the website, and somebody will be walking us through a bit more on the new website. So the executive board members, and then we have our senior distinguished fellows. Suman Basnat is here. Pino currently lives in Belgium, Brussels, and Bibakar is in Richmond, Virginia. And then we have our senior fellows leading our different verticals and helping Nepal Economic Forum shape up. Our key next steps we are seeing, as I was saying, was that we are going to build up a dashboard where we are going to look at bringing Nepal's economic data of 70 years and trying to extrapolate what's going to happen in the years to come. Among the publication, we are looking at Nepal 2030. We are going to re-articulate, see how that's going to move, and then our aim continues to remain spreading the knowledge, analysis, research, so that everybody benefits from it. So the context for today's discussion, when I requested our three speakers, was to say that, we keep talking about negativity, we're talking about, the newspapers don't give us great stories, and to say that how do we articulate a vision? Because in 30 years, Nepal has transformed. Its GDP has grown 10 times in 30 years. If we see, enrollment in schools, so many indicators, there have been tremendous transformation. So we are saying that, so if that transformation happened in the past, in between India and China, Nepal has great opportunity. COP26 has just happened. It has opportunity to lead the discourse around climate change. There are, of course, definite pandemics. Kulji will be, sort of walking us through. And of course, there's the potential of the youth that, Sneha is going to come out with a population of 70% under 35. This is a country that has a lot of potential that needs to be unleashed. So with that context, we would start today's sessions. And at the beginning, we have our C. Rajamohan from National University, Singapore, Institute for South Asia Studies, the Executive Director, with whom we are partnered to do this event today, Nepal and the World. We finished a panel discussion just before this. I was moderating for 1.5 hours, panel discussions where we had our former Ambassador Ranjit Ray, we had Dr. Huang from China Study Center, China, and Apaksha Shah from Nepal and the World, our own vertical. So we would start with a video of a message from Dr. Rajamohan, and then we would get onto the discussions. Thank you.
I'm C. Rajamohan, Director, Institute for South Asian Studies at the National University of Singapore. The institute was set up almost 15 years ago to focus on contemporary South Asia and to make the developments in South Asia intelligible and accessible to the citizens of Singapore and the larger academic and policy communities in Southeast Asia, which is the part of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. And we've been working on at least 4 areas. ISAS works on trade and economic relations, works on politics and governance, it looks at international relations and security. It also looks at technology and governance today, and we also have an annual conference on diaspora. So this is broadly the agenda of the ISAS. Though we are rooted in Singapore, we hope to become a hub for research on contemporary South Asia. As part of the effort to make ISAS the hub of South Asian research, we have a number of non-resident fellows. I'm delighted to say Sujib Sakya is one of the non-resident fellows, and we bring in people like him to help the region understand various aspects of different parts of South Asia. So for us, having Sujib there is a good way of understanding Nepal. So similarly, we have non-resident fellows from different parts of the world, and this network is helping us increase the footprint of ISAS. So I want to congratulate the Nepal Economic Forum for setting up this website. And I think it's an exciting journey of really connecting Nepal far more closely to the world and to the international system. Contrary to the widespread perception, Nepal is tucked away between India and China. It is an important country. Its impact on the world is growing thanks to its increasing economic growth, its very hardworking diaspora, and of course its geo-strategic location. So my sense is, with this reasonable sized population, Nepal, I think, is poised to do more in the world, and therefore we hope to see much more interaction between Nepal, not just the government, but its civil society, its academic community, its think tanks, to relate to the rest of the world. Because there is a world out there today which is eager to know more about Nepal, and all endeavors like the current one, which integrate Nepal more closely to the rest of the world, will be welcome. So while Nepal's position between China and India is important, Nepal also has a larger role in the world, and we hopefully will see a lot more of Nepal in the world, and more of the world in Nepal, so that people can come see the wonderful mountains of Nepal and its great civilization and its people. And as we hopefully coming to the end of the pandemic, my sense is this is a good moment for Nepal to think big, to engage ever larger parts of the international system. We in ISAS in South Asia are ready to be part of this process of working with our friends in Nepal, like Sujib and Ambassador Kul Gautam and others, to bring greater synergy between what Nepal is doing, Southeast Asia, Asia, and the rest of the world.
Yeah, I think we had some great discussions before this, and we've also decided that National University of Singapore, ISAS, and Nepal Economic Forum is going to continue the discourse for next year, which is going to be centered on investments. Today we don't have here in person Dr. Shankar Sharma, who is also one of our advisory board members, also the ambassador designate for India, and he was there in the panel earlier, and we thought of picking up 2 or 3 things that we can look at, be it on trade and export of electricity, be it on bringing investments into Nepal. So these are few areas that we have decided to collaborate with. So we'll now go into in-person speakers, and we would have, as I said, 3 speakers, and the first to go would be Mr. Kulchandra Gautam, former Assistant Secretary General of the United Nations and our advisory board member. And Kulji, the stage is yours. And for all speakers, just to remind you, there's a little clock out here so that you know how many minutes you're speaking. Thank you.
Thank you, Sujib. Thank you for that kind introduction. I'm a little physically challenged, so I think these beautiful flowers I will put aside for Ambassador Nicola Polit afterwards. Oh, okay, you have got
some arrangements.
All right, okay. Then the flowers can stay. Yeah. Thank you, Sujib ji. And congratulations for these 12 years of extraordinary achievements that the Nepal Economic Forum has made. You asked me to talk about pandemics all over the world and their impact and our future outlook. Let me say, during the past 2 years, the COVID pandemic has dominated all of our lives here in Nepal and all over the world. I should take out the, yeah. But COVID is only one among 4 pandemics facing Nepal and the world. A pandemic is defined as a dangerous disease that occurs over a wide geographic area, cutting across countries and regions, and that causes large-scale disease, death, disruption of social disruption, and economic loss. If we follow that definition, besides COVID-19, there are 3 other pandemics that fit that definition, and those are the specter of climate change, the growing inequality in the world, and bad governance. All of those are like pandemics too. And all these pandemics are mutually reinforcing. As we heard at the COP26 conference in Glasgow, and as we have experienced right here in Nepal, climate change and global warming are causing unseasonal rains, floods, droughts that impact on our human habitat, food systems, health, education, and livelihoods of millions of people. Growing inequality of income, wealth, and asset has also become a pandemic-like universal phenomenon, and COVID has exacerbated it. Millions of people have become poorer because of COVID, but COVID has also been a windfall for many billionaires who have become multi-billionaires. The economic stimulus and increased demand for diagnostics, PPE, oxygen, vaccines, and medicines have made the owners, shareholders, and brokers of pharmaceutical and biotech industries filthy rich. Dozens of executives of such industries in China, in India, in Canada, in Germany, in the USA, and elsewhere have become billionaires, COVID billionaires. Last year, at the height of the COVID crisis, we saw a record 500 new billionaires added to the list of already more than 2,000 billionaires in the world. And 5 million more people were added to the list of 50 million millionaires in the world, including dozens of them here in Nepal. The revelations we saw in the Panama Papers and the Pandora's Papers were just the tip of the iceberg. Added to all of this is vaccine inequity. With less than 7% of people in Africa fully vaccinated, we have had over 70% are vaccinated in the OECD countries. The big talk we had of treating COVID vaccines as global public good became almost farcical, as many rich countries hoarded more vaccines than they needed, while the poor countries waited for their leftovers. And how about bad governance as a pandemic? The COVID crisis has led to many authoritarian leaders and even some democratically elected leaders imposing all kinds of harsh restrictions and violating people's human rights. In the name of public health, many governments are using brute force to crush opponents, to settle scores, and restrict press freedom. According to Freedom House and Reporters Without Borders, there has been a steady decline in democratic freedoms around the world. As we are learning the hard way, tackling one pandemic is hard enough. Tackling all 4 pandemics simultaneously is an unprecedented challenge of our times. But tackle them we must. We must because the rewards of doing so will unleash a virtuous cycle of building a better future for our children and grandchildren. And failing to do so will bring unprecedented gloom and doom to humanity. So what should be done? Sadly, there are no magic solutions or simple formulas. But there are solid recommendations to tackle each of these pandemics proposed by high-level commissions of eminent personalities. All that is lacking is strong political commitment from the world's political leaders. At the global level, the Independent Panel on Pandemic Preparedness and Response, co-chaired by the former Liberian President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and former New Zealand Prime Minister Helen Clark, has come up with 7 major systemic recommendations to stop future outbreaks of infectious diseases from becoming catastrophic pandemics. We don't have the time today for me to elaborate on those recommendations, but suffice it to say that let us just follow those 7 recommendations of the panel, which provides a detailed roadmap to prevent and to cope with future pandemics. At the national level, here in Nepal, we have learned the hard way some lessons on what to do and what not to do. Some of the key lessons to me include build a much stronger and more responsive health system. Ensure that the whole of government, not just the Ministry of Health, is mobilized in times of pandemics. And when I say the whole of government, I want to specifically emphasize the need to mobilize our 100,000 strong Nepal army much more effectively to help tackle pandemics and other disasters. Because after all, human security is the foundation for national security. Also, while focusing on pandemics, let us not neglect routine health services such as childhood immunization, maternal health, nutrition, and sanitation, which still cause far higher mortality and morbidity on a regular basis than the pandemic. And finally, let's ensure that education of children is not unduly or inequitably disrupted over a long period of time. Turning to the pandemic of climate change. At the global level, what is needed is to honestly honor the commitments that were made in Paris in 2015 and whatever commitments will come out of COP26 that ends today. The world's best minds have worked on these issues, taking into account the latest scientific evidence and the political realities that prevail in the world. There is no need for second-guessing their recommendations other than to take account of the views and voices and aspirations of the younger generation, who have been amazingly active and providing leadership in what they rightly call the climate justice movement. In the case of Nepal, it is true, but rather trite to say that Nepal suffers greatly from the impact of global warming, although our own global carbon footprint is negligible. But that attitude of blaming others and playing victim, to me, is a lazy way of dealing with the issue. While we have no control over what the rest of the world does, we must take responsibility for what we ourselves can do and must do. It is good that our Prime Minister committed in Glasgow that Nepal aims to reach net zero carbon emission by 2045. But can't we do better than that? I think we can and ought to be even more ambitious and specific. Because except for firewood, all our fossil fuels, petrol, diesel, LP gas, they are all imported. Why can't we switch from fossil fuels to electric vehicles, electric cooking stoves, electric heating and cooling systems in a more aggressive and determined manner? I commend our energy minister these days, who is encouraging this kind of switching to electric vehicles and other things. But here again, I would urge a whole-of-government approach for an accelerated electrification of our transport, industry, and domestic fuel consumption. And let us do so fast and furiously before Nepal's notorious cartels and syndicates thwart this effort to electrification. On combating inequality, there again are numerous recommendations by organizations ranging from the United Nations to OECD and scholars like Thomas Piketty and Joseph Stiglitz and many others. Among the most compelling reports with specific recommendation to drastically reduce inequality, I would particularly commend the ones from Oxfam. Every year for the past 10 years, Oxfam has presented to the World Economic Council in Davos shocking statistics of growing and grotesque inequality in the world, along with very specific recommendations on how to tackle it. Its latest report on the vulnerability, on the inequality virus, contains a roadmap for tackling the pandemic by ending extreme inequality and providing essential services for all. Oxfam has also produced a very nice report on fighting inequality in Nepal. It recommends several steps to tackle inequality and put Nepal on track for a more prosperous future. But given our culture of cartels and syndicates patronized by political parties in virtually all sectors, I do not see the gap between the rich and the poor narrowing in the near future. On the contrary, I see the gap growing. The most we can hope for in the short term is to protect the poor from further impoverishment through investment in better quality healthcare, education, gainful employment at home and abroad, and some measure of social protection. In the long term, ensuring good governance remains the essential foundation for reducing inequality through targeted macroeconomic and social justice policies, more progressive taxation, and pro-poor economic growth. For far too long, in Nepal, we have sought ideological solutions to our development challenges through multiple political revolutions. In the past 7 decades, we have tried all forms of governments and all kinds of ideologies. And there is not that much to show in terms of great progress being made. Perhaps the time has come for us to forget ideologies and follow common sense, and learn from the pragmatic experience and lessons from some of our more successful Southeast Asian neighbors. To do that, we will need to turn to our younger generation, the digital generation, who are not mesmerized by the ideological slogans of their elders, but who are increasingly connected to the rest of the world. They will show us how to harness the positive power of globalization for their own growth and for the growth of our nation. Sujitji, I know my time is up, so let me conclude by referring to your own excellent book, Unleashing the Bajra, in which you hit the nail on the head when you speak about the need for social transformation, not through political revolution, but by inculcating more ethical and egalitarian values in the hearts and minds of our children from their earliest childhood. Indeed, the practice of good governance must start from our own homes by inculcating a sense of social responsibility and ethical behavior in our daily lives that our children can emulate. Thank you.
Thank you, Kulji. I think you continue to inspire us. And as you're speaking, I think when we are discussing about the different pandemics, we are definitely, it carves out some work for us to do. And as far as inequality is concerned, I think the recently launched Green, Resilient, Inclusive Development Action Plan, GRID Action Plan, does look at the inclusivity as a way to tackle inequality. And on the issues that you raised on impact of climate change and lessening that and managing that are Himalayan Circular Economy Forum and Renewable Energy Center would be the two vehicles that have a lot of work cut out in the days to come. Thank you, Kulji, for your very inspirational remarks. May I now ask the second speaker, Her Excellency Nicola Pollitt, British Ambassador to Nepal, for her remarks, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, namaskar. And thank you very much to the Nepal Economic Forum and the Institute of South Asian Studies for the opportunity to speak today. It's lovely to be speaking to people in person after such a long time of speaking online. I was asked to speak about Nepal in the world, which you might argue is a broad topic for a short speech. But as soon as I thought about today's world, the global crises we've all been grappling with lead us naturally into a conversation about global challenges and global solutions marked by collaboration and partnership. As Mr. Gautam has just so eloquently set out, we're all wrestling with the same problems. How do we arrest the spread of COVID-19? How do we reduce the effects of climate change on our people and our planet? How do we support our economies to grow and our people to prosper in an inclusive and green way? Given the audience, I wanted to look at the Nepal-specific dimension to this last question today. It seems timely as we reach the closing stages of COP26 to consider what next and how from an economics perspective. I'm not an economist, although at one point I was planning to be, but that's another story. I'm a diplomat. And so when I look at this question, I see it in terms of how we can help Nepal prosper in the interests of its people and ours. First, climate. It's difficult not to be worried by the vulnerability of Nepal to climate change. This year has made that particularly visible and stark. But I'm also excited by the commitments that Nepal has made at COP26. On Tuesday, in Glasgow, the Minister of Forests and Environment announced an increase in Nepal's net zero ambition. Rather than net zero by 2045, the Minister announced that Nepal would be carbon negative from 2045. And before that, its emissions will average net zero from next year onwards. Not only that, but Nepal will halt deforestation and increase forest cover to 45% by 2030. And ensure all vulnerable people are protected from climate change by 2030. These are ambitious targets. And as Mr. Gautam has just said, they will need aggressive implementation. They can also only be realised if tens of billions of dollars of finance is invested in the period to 2050. The scale of that is eye-watering, and that sum cannot come from public finance or from development assistance alone. But let's be clear that the private sector is willing to step in. From organisations as varied as development financed institutions, the World Bank, IFC, Dolma Fund, the Asian Development Bank, the Green Climate Fund, and other investors from across the region and beyond, I have heard the same message repeatedly. The money can be found, but investors need confidence. Confidence in the rules, confidence in the timelines, and confidence that Nepal is open for business. So I urge the government and decision makers, make this a predictable and welcoming investment environment. Lift the restrictions and speed up the approvals. Nepal's green, inclusive, and resilient development will follow. Donors have already committed $4.2 billion of new money under the GRID agenda. That's a great start, even if Nepal needs much more. Our assessment is that there are $46 billion worth of investment opportunities in Nepal, in energy, in transport, in water and waste management, and city infrastructure. These areas are all ripe for private sector investment. Some fear that foreign investment might be at the expense of existing Nepali businesses and jobs. But that's not what research and experience show. Studies have shown that FDI can support economic growth, job creation, and technology transfer in developing countries. For example, in Bangladesh, South Korean investments helped build the capability to develop their garment industry, which is now competitive globally. There are similar examples beginning to be seen here in Nepal. Mira Biotech has received investment and technology transfer from the International Vaccine Institute, a South Korean biopharmaceutical company. And with further investment from Business Oxygen, a private equity fund with investments from the FCDO and IFC, Mira Biotech aspires to be part of the COVID-19 vaccine supply chain. Nepal is not short of potential. With foreign investment, products from Nepal can build strong brands and export across the world. The tourism industry could attract high-end tourists to enjoy its natural beauty and rich cultural heritage. The hydro industry has huge untapped potential. With the right investment, including in transmission lines, Nepal could export its monsoon-driven hydro surplus. There are many more opportunities like this, but you all know them better than me, I'm sure. So if my first message is improve the investment environment, my second is create a strong pipeline of green growth investment opportunities. We can help. The British government has supported the Investment Board Nepal for 10 years with just that in mind. And next year we want to support the government of Nepal in hosting a Green Investment Summit to showcase Nepal's green investment opportunities. It's worth pausing for just a moment on two of IBN's successes on which Nepal should build. The Aran 3 hydropower, Nepal's largest ever FDI deal, is due to complete in 2023. It has contributed greatly to clean energy transition. IBN has the potential to advance solar and hydro projects, as well as electric transport and smart cities, all nationally significant transformative projects. IBN has also leveraged $2 billion in investments, with a significantly higher figure in the project pipeline. Through biennial investment summits and its work to boost the pipeline, IBN has retained its profile in spite of the challenges of COVID-19. But to really make the most of IBN, it needs more autonomy. That includes the ability to hire its own staff, and it could also play a critical role in helping businesses to navigate government systems and approvals. So I'm glad that the board is developing its one-stop service centre capabilities. And I don't want to forget special economic zones and industrial parks. If they're supplied with good infrastructure like clean, green energy and internet, and the right incentives are in place to attract the private sector to manage them, businesses will come and will generate products, services and jobs. I hope the SEZ Authority will intensify its work to attract private operators to these sites to help drive the reforms needed to make them work. There are a host of other issues we could talk about on green growth. I've highlighted just two. But whatever the issues, I'm convinced that the answers lie in partnership. At home in Nepal, that has to be an inclusive partnership, one which includes women in leadership, in startups, and in the decision-making at all levels. Internationally, Nepal has a host of friends, and I'm proud that the UK is the oldest of those. I encourage Nepal to take advantage of its friends and its partners, putting more emphasis on the expertise it can invite in from different areas of the world. Economic diplomacy is not just about what the diplomats do overseas, but about the welcome that investors get here in Nepal. I know I speak for many when I say we stand ready to help. So here's to partnership among friends across sectors and across the region. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Nicola Pullet. I think you brought about connecting Nepal to the world through investments, and I like the way you ended in terms of economic diplomacy when we talk about it, and we have some of former ambassadors here, Nepali ambassadors to different parts of the world, and who have tried to engage in economic diplomacy, but I think it needs to happen inside Nepal also, where we really welcome investors. We look forward to working together on the Green Investment Summit that's coming in next year, and some of the other areas. So we now go to our final speaker, Sneha Rajbandari, who is the member of the World Economic Forum Regional Stewardship Board for South Asia, and also advisory board member of Nepal Economic Forum. Sneha.
Good evening and namaste. It's really fantastic to see such a fantastic full house here today. And it's really my honor to be speaking after Mr. Kulchandra Gautam and Your Excellency. The First World War ended today, exactly 103 years ago. More than 100,000 British Gurkhas fought in the First World War, and I have vivid memories as a middle school student celebrating Remembrance Day. At the time, I may not have understood its significance, but reflecting on this today, I realized that our then small Himalayan kingdom, which opened up to the world only in the 1950s, already had a role to play in world affairs. As we sit here today, hosted by the Nepal Economic Forum, mulling over our young secular Republic of Nepal and its role in an increasingly globalized world, I feel like our land-linked country is at a critical juncture. The actions we take forward today for issues around inclusion and equity, climate change, and digital citizenship will redefine the development trajectory for Nepal. Nepalis all around the world have been leaving their mark in multiple sectors, holding very senior positions in global institutions, or in creating their own global brands. At the same time, Nepalis who have come back to the country after completing their education abroad or working abroad have made significant contributions to the betterment of our country. We're fortunate to see and interact with many living examples of the same in the audience here today. As the Nepal Economic Forum completes 11 years, it has played an important role in creating a platform for youthful voices. NEF has encouraged timely reflection on the development of Nepal from a youth perspective and has played a vital role in linking academic research to policy recommendations. The Nepal Economic Forum is similar to the World Economic Forum, playing a key role as a catalyst for multi-stakeholder engagement. In 2011, Professor Klaus Schwab, the founder of the World Economic Forum, envisioned the Global Shapers community to ensure that young people under the age of 30 had a seat at the decision-making table. The whole idea for this community stemmed from encouraging young people with energy and innovative ideas to come together for projects of impact across various sectors. Just this year, over 1,000 projects were completed by Shapers globally in an attempt to improve the state of the world, one community at a time. I was fortunate enough to become a global shaper in 2014 as a result of the work that I was doing to create stable community centers in the heart of instability in internal migrant slums in Kathmandu Valley. In 2015, when the Gorkha earthquake struck, the Kathmandu hub really became a force for good. We raised over $500,000 and delivered ambitious projects of not just disaster relief and rehabilitation, but reconstruction. The strength of the Shapers Network is really linked to a sense of belonging, identifying with a higher purpose of doing good for our local community, no matter where we are in the world. But COVID-19 really has shaken all of us to the core, disrupted life as we knew it, and forced us to adapt to a new normal. Globally, we, as the young people, are one of the most affected demographic when it comes to the world's rising socio-economic, political, and environmental crises, and the scenario is no different in Nepal. A recent survey report by the ILO and Niti Foundation on youth anxiety, aspiration, and activism paints a relatively bleak picture as we come out of the pandemic. only 34% of the 2,000 youth that were surveyed believe that the country is headed in the right direction. This is significantly less than the 2018 National Governance Survey that found 80% of the youth believe the same. I think this point resonates with some of the comments made by Kulji earlier and touches on the pandemic mindset. 84% of the youth surveyed reported having anxiety due to COVID-19. In order to address the issues that young people are facing today, the Kathmandu Hub has been shaping the discourse in prioritizing open conversations about mental health through mess-up nights and organizing wellness weekends, along with taking forward a virtual campaign called #YouMatter. If you look at the current discourse around climate change and the environment, we are at a higher risk than many of our counterparts. The World Bank estimates that Nepal will experience twice as much flooding due to rising temperatures by 2030. We are inheriting the policy outcomes of decisions that were made without us being consulted, yet we're the ones who in the long run will bear the brunt of it. In this context, it is critical that we take the issue of intergenerational parity very seriously and encourage all institutions in all sectors to include young people as the most important stakeholder when we're talking about the future. The silver lining to the youth mindset is the fact that more than 70% of the same youth that were surveyed expressed a preference to work and stay in Nepal, and only 9% of the youth wanted to go overseas for foreign employment. I urge all the public, private, and development institutions here to think about the possibilities if we're able to constructively tap into this sentiment and design pathways for leadership for deserving candidates. We have long spoken about the demographic dividend, but the time to act is now, as in another 25 years, we will transition out of the demographic window of opportunity. If we zoom out and place Nepal in the context of South Asia, the megatrends of the region provide a much more optimistic outlook in spite of the historical constraints. South Asia overall has a growing young and educated working population, a growing middle class, and there are many new emerging opportunities for agile organizations who've been able to adapt and leapfrog their business models to changing times. India's e-commerce industry is expected to grow by a staggering 84% to 111 billion by 2024. In contrast, Nepal, which has a very high internet penetration rate and a formidable youth population, has not been able to leverage the potential of an internet-based economy and the e-commerce boom. We need to invest in digital infrastructure and training and address the potential digital divide and inequities that could arise, as digital literacy and citizenship will be key to competing in the region. The World Economic Stewardship Board brings together senior government officials, media leaders, private sector leaders to transform the potential of South Asia through public-private cooperation. As the only member from Nepal on this board, I've had a chance to showcase some perspectives about Nepal as a shaper and as someone who has worked both in the development and private sector. As a part of the working group, we've also focused on accelerating digital transformation for the betterment of education and employment, and we've started some important discussions between India, Nepal, and Bangladesh. I'm keen to further engage with the Nepal Economic Forum and the partners to see what action we can take forward, perhaps by drawing linkages with the Center for Digital Transformation. I welcome all of you in the audience to reach out to me anytime if you'd like to connect me to impactful projects on the ground that would benefit from regional synergies. I would also urge everyone here to really think about the power of intergenerational parity and ensure that the voice of the new generation is heard and our ideas are translated into constructive and impactful action. To all of my contemporaries in the audience today, you know you are best placed to lead the transition to a more equitable future. It is your next big idea that has the power to shape the economic, political, and social discourse of Nepal and the world. Thank you, Suji, for giving me this opportunity to engage with the Nepal Economic Forum, and I really hope to bring in some additional value to the incredible work that has already been going on for more than a decade. Thank you.
Thank you, Sneha. That's very inspiring. And I think we have taken a lot of guidance in terms of this year at the Nepal Economic Forum. We decided in the advisory board to induct someone under 30. So we had a former fellow. So we have now a position where a former fellow takes in the position of an advisory board member for a year. And Shraddha Gautam, she's here. After her fellowship here and at Daitwa, she was at LSE, London School of Economics, and come back and join the board. So we continue to be guided by such interventions, and especially as we move ahead on digital transformation, there's a lot to do. I think Ashray Dikshit is sitting there and thinking of a lot of stuff. So now we go to the final part where we would have Nepal Economic Forum coordinator, Samriddhi Pant, who will walk us through our new website and sort of the change in branding, because I think transformation is so important. And I think in Nepal we get stagnated, and we had Image Arc help us to shape this transformation in our branding and the way our website looks. Somebody, could you walk us through? Thanks.
Thank you, Sujeev. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, and a very good evening to everyone. Today, we plan to showcase one of our efforts that Sujeev has already been talking about recalibrating NEF in the coming years. So one of our efforts is to rebrand NEF, and this is a part of it, where we're relaunching our website. Talking about the website, the previous website that we had was more focused on disseminating information to our potential audiences, but now we are transitioning towards creating a more dynamic website where people can be, our audience can be probed to become critical thinkers from analytical observers. So that's the aim of the website. And through the website, we also plan to become a more bold personality where we want to present our research ideas and concepts in a more impactful manner. And this time, we have envisioned NEF to work towards creating an empowered private sector ecosystem. So that's the vision of NEF for the upcoming years. This is the new look of the website. So currently, it's not live yet. So this is a screenshot of the website. The core of the website is, like I said, to repackage and rebrand the content of NEF that the institution has done in the past 12 years, to present it in a more impactful way, and also to present the idea of who we are and what we do. In the verge of transitioning NEF from becoming a more dynamic institution, like Sujeev said, one of our efforts is towards creating more incubation programs that would support new ideas and innovations. So the new website has also place for the 6 incubation centers that we are currently running, that is under different sectors like the circular economy, renewable energy, digital transformation, private sector development, Nepal and the world, which deals with the bilateral and multilateral relations of Nepal, and the global identity of Nepali. So this is a platform where we will be showcasing the incubation programs. Also are placed in the website the regular products of NEF through the Business and Policy Research Center. One of them is the Neftalk, like Sujeev has already mentioned, that we have published more than 150 Neftalks in the past 2 years, which has been very impactful in providing contemporary information on economic and social issues of Nepal. And then we have the Nefport, which is another publication of Nepal Economic Forum. We can also see in the slides that Nefport has transformed from being merely an economic publication that covers the whole economy to becoming a publication that covers information on each of the sectors. And now we also have ebook version of the Nefport. So slowly, step by step, we're trying to transition into a better publication to add more value to our readers. And this time, through the website, we have also made it more accessible, so we can download a copy of the Nefport through our multiple platforms in a simple manner. So this is the place where we will be placing all our Neftalk videos. Previously, we used to have a place where we could click it and then it would be diverted to the YouTube version, but now all the videos would be there in the consolidated manner in the website itself. Also, there is a section where you could log in and see the upcoming Neftalks. For example, we have a Neftalk upcoming in 16th of November. It's on green SME financing in Nepal. It's supported by WLC Ventures, so that would also be present in the website. So there's an option of saving your spot in the website itself, so you don't need to RSVP, you just go and click on the upcoming events that you are interested in. Regarding the internship and fellowship, previously we had a simple section where people could just drop in their CVs, but now we have presented the people with options of understanding what actually the internship and fellowship mean. So the description of what we can offer as an organization to the fellows and interns will be present in the website, and the forms are easy to download. And then there is the contact and connect page. Moving on to the main part, so as you can see in all of our collaterals, our logo has been changed. So this is the new logo of NEF. So we've moved from a coin logo with red and blue background color theme to this logo, which is more about avenues and paths which NEF uses to approach its progress. And also the fluidity in the concept of the logo is something we think is more youthful and playful, and it leaves the audience to interpret the logo on itself, which also presents the participatory approach of the logo. These are the new colors of NEF. So this is the face of NEF that you will be seeing here on. And this is one of the upcoming projects of NEF. So this is about creating immersion courses. So we're collaborating and partnering with key institutions of Nepal, primarily the academic institutions and universities, to design immersion courses on economic and social issues that would be relevant to the youth. And that is on its way. So it's one of our plans for the year 2022. And also, like Sujeev mentioned, there is our plan of having a dashboard of compilation of all the data that we have on Nepali economy from the year 1950 to 2021. So that will help all the readers and our potential audiences, development partners, academicians, and me as a professional myself who always looks for data. That would be very helpful. So that's on the way. Yeah, that's it. But I would like to take a vote of thanks to especially thank our team of ImageArc on helping us curating this website. And without you, it would not have been possible. And also the entire NEF team. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Samriddhi. I think we just run a few minutes over, so I would like to bring to close. So thank you all for joining. I think we would have loved to continue in receptions, but this is the first in-person event, and we were not very sure. We would like to, have people for networking, and so maybe over a period of time, that's something that is part of a Neftalk, is for people to come mingle and meet people. So this has been a great day for us. It's a sort of bit disorienting because it's the first in-person event. We are trying to get back to sort of in-person meetings, in-person sort of ideation. We've also realized over these 2 years, that brainstorming is so difficult to do online. You need to be in person to brainstorm, and I think as the, sort of hopefully the pandemic recedes, we can move, travel, and meet in person. We would be having more discussions between the different centers, more activities. As you saw already, there's a Neftalk coming up on November 16 on green SME finance. On 18th, we are hosting a roundtable on BBIN, multi-modal transport agreement. That's on the way. And then there'll be many more events coming up next year. We are hoping that the Kantipur Conclave will kickstart next year after hiatus this year in 2021. So there will be more platforms, as Ambassador Nicola Pollitt mentioned. There's the Investment Summit coming up. So we would have many opportunities, and we look forward to working with partners. Also, we look forward to you bringing about ideas for us to work on, sending in people who would like to do internship, fellowship. It's a collaborative effort. It's a platform, as Samriddhi mentioned in the end. It's a participatory platform. And we have been able to make it as sustainable as possible in these years, and we hope that we can continue this way. A big round of applause for all the team that makes this possible. And thank you all, Samriddhi, Nasala, and we have Sakshi at the back. Many of them who, it's not easy to put together events, especially this time when you're not sure how people should sit, how the microphone should work, where should the sanitizers be. And they've done a great job, and we look forward to seeing you in another edition of Neftalk. Thank you very much. Thank you to the speakers and to the audience. Thank you.